So Cenk Uygur had a interesting tweet that he sent out about lunatic Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now you guys remember I had done a video when she had won her election explaining and basically warning people this lady is absolutely insane to the lengths that we have not seen in a long, long time in Congress. So there's been, and I was thinking about, okay, is Congress going to expel her, right? And it's interesting, you think about the logistics and how it would be done and whether or not it should be done. Because what we saw was, she was essentially threatening the squad, putting up a video, her with their gun and then the squad pictures next to it and stuff like that. And then there was all the QAnon stuff and all that kind of stuff. And apparently she had liked comments saying that, basically saying Pelosi should have a bullet in her head and crazy, crazy shit like that, right? And absolutely insane to levels you never heard before. Cenk Uygur sent out a tweet. He says, I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene should be expelled from Congress for her past statements. Is she nuts? Absolutely. I genuinely believe she belongs more in an insane asylum than Congress. But that's not for us to decide. Her voters put her there likely because they're as nuts as she is. So he has an interesting thought here. I genuinely wonder how much of what he says here is guided by a belief that Marjorie Taylor Greene being in Congress basically paints the Republicans in a worse light and therefore makes them more vulnerable. I feel like there's definitely an element of that, even though he doesn't mention that. That has to be the motivating factor here. But I actually pretty firmly disagree with this. Now, what we know when it comes to expulsion is each house, each chamber of Congress determines their own internal affairs, meaning they can expel people. The House deals with expulsion in the House, and Senate does in the Senate. So expulsion requires 2/3 vote in the House, which means 2/3 have to agree to expel. It says each House may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. So with 2/3, and that's Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 of the Constitution. So there are various forms of punishment you can give, like censoring someone and things of that nature for, not following rules. The House does have rules that they have to follow. We also saw Marjorie Taylor Greene not wearing a mask. Remember, she refused to wear a mask, so that's also one of those things where, you're not following rules, putting other House members in danger. Definitely, not somebody who's actually following it. So, with the expulsion explains, it's only been used really a couple times. A lot of the times it was used was for Confederate members who basically joined the Confederacy when the Civil War broke out. Some people resigned before they could actually be expelled. But this definitely, I think, makes sense to actually, expel her because she essentially brings the institution into danger. She brings, which is really the main thing here. It says the Constitution empowers both the House and the Senate to expel a sitting member who engages in, quote, disorderly behavior, requiring 2/3 of the vote of those present voting in the chamber to which the member belongs. As these are internal matters, neither the House nor the Senate requires the concurrence of the other chamber to expel one of its own members. And so, it explains essentially here that basically, this is something that's used in the cases of when somebody is, bringing danger to the institution as a whole. And that's essentially what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing, right? She's threatening members of Congress, Nancy Pelosi, the squad, basically putting their lives in danger, not following rules of the institution. And, really potentially, she is sort of giving a potential threat, especially with what we saw happening over at the U.S. Capitol. It's pretty obvious that she seriously does pose a threat to the institution and its members. So, honestly, expelling Marjorie Taylor Greene is almost common sense to me. I'm surprised that Matt Gaetz, who really is the reason why she got elected, right? He endorsed her. And apparently, her opponent had dropped out potentially because of death threats and stuff like that. This is a very clean-cut case, in my opinion, of, yeah, she should be expelled. There's a whole reason for expulsion being there. This is really one of the ways, is because it puts the members' lives at danger, puts the institution of the House in danger. So I think this is pretty clean cut, and I couldn't disagree any more than what Cenk is saying here. So you're not following the rules. You're putting members in danger. That's very, very clear, expulsion, obviously. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of Republicans in the House who don't like her. So would you potentially, I'm sure, I would assume most or all Democrats would be down, and then you would just have to pull enough Republicans. And so could you pull enough Republicans to expel her? I think it's definitely possible because the Republican Party is going to figure out here, they're going to have to figure out how to move past the Trumpian era. She's sort of a lingering impact of the Trumpian era, and they might want to turn the page on that, although what we're seeing with Ted Cruz right now, he's trying to tap into that, same as Marco Rubio. So they might be really forced to do that in order to move on from the Trumpian era. But yeah, I do think that, yeah, she should get expelled.